Gentlemen, intelligence isn't just measured by IQ. It's measured by emotional wisdom. And when it comes to women, even the smartest men make mistakes that quietly erode attraction, trust, and respect. You can have charm, success, and confidence, but if you misread her emotional cues or try to outsmart her heart, you lose her faster than you realize. Today, I'll reveal what not to do, the subtle, psychological traps that even intelligent men fall into, and how avoiding them can transform not only your relationships, but your entire emotional legacy. When it comes to relationships, one of the most common mistakes intelligent men make is believing that logic can outmaneuver emotion. You can have an extraordinary intellect, a sharp sense of reason, and a brilliant way of articulating ideas. But when it comes to a woman's heart, the rules shift. Emotion, not logic, is the language of connection. The smarter a man is, the more he tends to rely on intellect to solve problems. Yet, in love, this instinct to analyze can actually create distance. Because when a woman expresses her feelings, she's not looking for an argument, a solution, or a lecture. She's searching for understanding, for resonance, for the feeling of being seen. You see, emotion is not a puzzle to solve. It's a bridge to cross. When a woman opens up emotionally, she's extending that bridge toward you. If your first impulse is to correct her perspective, dismiss her reaction, or rationalize her pain, that bridge collapses. She retreats. Not because she wants to win, but because she feels unseen. Smart men often miss this moment, not because they lack empathy, but because they overvalue logic in a space where emotion is the only currency that matters. Think of it this way. A woman's emotional world is like an ocean. It's vast, layered, unpredictable, and deeply alive. A man who insists on controlling the tides ends up drowning. But the one who learns to float, to feel the rhythm of her moods, to respond with calm curiosity instead of control, he's the one who experiences the beauty of her depth. Listening isn't passive. It's active participation in her emotional reality. When you simply hold space for her feelings, when you let her express herself without rushing to fix or reframe, you communicate something far more powerful than intellect ever could. You communicate safety. And safety for a woman is the gateway to intimacy. When she feels emotionally safe, her guard drops, her affection deepens, her attraction intensifies. She begins to trust that her emotions aren't too much, that her vulnerability isn't a burden, and that trust transforms everything. It makes her softer, more open, more drawn to you, not because you're solving her emotions, but because you're allowing her to have them. The irony is that the very intelligence that serves men so well in their careers can betray them in love. You can negotiate deals, plan strategies, and lead people with rational precision. But love doesn't operate on those frequencies. Love is chemistry, biology, psychology. It's a dance of hormones and neural pathways designed for empathy and bonding, not efficiency and order. When you argue against a woman's emotions, you're arguing against her nature. But when you understand them, when you meet her with patience and genuine curiosity, you honor that nature. And in doing so, you elevate the relationship to something richer and more human. Sometimes emotional understanding requires silence, just a nod, a soft tone, or a phrase like, "I can see how that made you feel." Those small acknowledgments tell her you're not trying to minimize her emotions, but to comprehend them. It's not submission, it's attunement. It's saying, I'm with you in this moment, not above it. That's what creates emotional connection. Now, here's the subtle truth most men overlook. Emotional intelligence is not about letting her feelings dominate the relationship. It's about respecting the emotional dimension as equally valid as logic. When you listen with empathy, you're not surrendering power, you're building influence. You're shaping how safe she feels with you. And in that safety, she'll reveal her truest self. Her love will flow more freely, and her loyalty will deepen in ways intellect alone can never achieve. There's also a deeper biological reason for this. Women evolve to be more emotionally attuned. It's wired into the female brain through the limbic system, the part that governs empathy and bonding. So when you try to outsmart her feelings, you're fighting an evolutionary mechanism millions of years in the making. But when you engage it, when you validate her emotions instead of rejecting them, you trigger trust chemicals like oxytocin. That's the science of connection. It's not manipulation, it's awareness. Men who understand this principle often find that their relationships stop feeling like a battlefield and start feeling like a partnership. They realize that love isn't about winning an argument. It's about staying connected through the storm. The woman in front of you doesn't need you to dissect her emotions. She needs you to hold them with care. That's what turns a good man into a great one, a man who doesn't just think deeply, but feels deeply too. Because when a woman senses that your intelligence includes emotional understanding, she doesn't just respect you, she relaxes into you. And in that moment, attraction transforms into trust, and love becomes something enduring, something real. One of the greatest misunderstandings many intelligent men carry into relationships is the idea that independence and emotional distance are the same thing. They're not. Independence is a sign of strength. It's self-reliance, purpose, and discipline. Emotional distance, on the other hand, is a silent wall that keeps love from breathing. Too often, men who value their independence guard it so fiercely that they unintentionally shut out emotional intimacy. They think that being self-contained, composed, and detached makes them appear strong, when in reality, it makes them seem unreachable. Women are naturally drawn to strength, but strength without warmth feels cold. It's like standing near a fire that never gives off heat. You can see the light, but you can't feel it. When a man is emotionally unavailable, no matter how intelligent or capable he is, a woman senses that gap instantly. She feels the disconnection before he even realizes it's there. And that disconnection doesn't show up in dramatic ways at first. It begins in the small silences, the unspoken "I'm fine," the moments when she shares her world and he only half listens, the nights when she reaches out emotionally, but he stays locked inside his own thoughts. The modern man has been taught to equate stoicism with strength, to never show too much emotion, to solve problems in silence. But emotional isolation is not a mark of confidence. It's a symptom of fear. The fear of being vulnerable, of being misunderstood, of appearing weak. Yet, in truth, emotional openness is one of the most powerful forms of strength a man can show, because it takes courage to reveal what you feel. It takes self-trust to express love, uncertainty, or even fear without hiding behind logic or sarcasm. And it takes real confidence to let someone see the man behind the armor. Women aren't looking for a man who needs them. They're looking for a man who lets them in. When a man can stand firmly in his independence while still being emotionally present, he becomes magnetic. That combination, stability and openness, is irresistible. It tells her he's not dependent on her for happiness, but he values the emotional exchange they share. It tells her he's not afraid of depth. And in a world where most people fear emotional exposure, that depth becomes rare and therefore profoundly attractive. When a man maintains too much emotional distance, the relationship starts to feel one-sided. She gives, she reaches, she opens. But eventually, she tires of carrying both sides of the connection. Emotional reciprocity is what keeps intimacy alive. It doesn't mean oversharing or losing yourself in someone else. It means showing up fully as you are. It's the quiet moments when you say, "I've had a rough day," or "that really touched me," or even just, "I understand what you're feeling." Those simple acts of openness let her know that your walls aren't made of stone. They're made of strength that knows when to soften. And there's a science to this. Emotional connection activates the parts of the brain responsible for bonding and empathy. When you express emotion, you're not just communicating, you're synchronizing. You're literally allowing your nervous systems to align. That's what love is at its core. Two people resonating on an emotional frequency that logic can't touch. And the men who master that balance, who can hold their independence while still allowing connection, create relationships that feel alive. Some men fear that if they open up too much, they'll lose control or appear needy. But emotional expression isn't loss of control. It's emotional intelligence in action. The truth is, women don't need men to be perfect. They need them to be present. Presence is power. It's the moment when you look her in the eyes and she feels that you're truly there, not analyzing, not planning your next move, just existing with her in real time. That's when trust forms. That's when she feels seen. Independence, when it's healthy, gives you space to grow as your own person. It gives you identity, purpose, and direction. But emotional distance cuts you off from one of life's richest experiences, shared connection. The goal isn't to lose yourself in love. It's to bring your full, independent self into it. To show her that strength doesn't mean silence and that vulnerability doesn't mean weakness. It means maturity. It means you've learned that closeness doesn't threaten your independence. It enhances it, because when a man learns how to remain independent while still being emotionally available, he doesn't just attract love, he sustains it. He becomes the kind of man who can hold space for another person without losing himself, and who can be strong without ever becoming cold. And that's the kind of strength that doesn't push love away. It invites it to stay. One of the most overlooked truths about modern relationships is that attraction and connection are not the same thing. Attraction can ignite in seconds. It's chemistry, biology, instinct. It's that spark you feel when someone's energy pulls you in. But connection, real emotional connection, takes time. It's built in quiet moments, in consistency, in trust. The problem is, many smart men spend so much energy learning how to attract women that they forget to sustain what truly matters after that first spark fades. They master the chase, but they forget to master the keeping. Attraction is a biological event. It's your brain's way of rewarding attention and curiosity. But connection is a psychological investment. It requires depth, patience, and emotional awareness. A woman might be drawn to your confidence, your intelligence, your humor, but what makes her a stay is how you make her feel when the excitement settles. It's not the intensity of your presence in the beginning, it's the reliability of your presence over time. When attraction is mistaken for connection, the relationship becomes a cycle of highs and lows. There's intensity at the start, passion, endless conversation, and chemistry that feels electric. But when emotional depth isn't cultivated, that same fire begins to flicker. She starts to feel that something's missing, even if she can't explain what. And that's because emotional connection doesn't live in passion. It lives in consistency. It's not built in grand gestures. It's built in the way you respond when she's vulnerable, in the way you listen without interruption, in the way you show up when it's inconvenient. A woman's brain is designed for bonding. It seeks emotional security as much as physical attraction. That's why the men who focus only on attraction often leave women feeling emotionally starved. They know how to make her excited, but not how to make her feel safe. Safety doesn't sound romantic, but it's the foundation of every lasting relationship. Because a woman who feels emotionally safe can express herself fully. She doesn't need to perform or protect her heart. She can relax into the relationship. And when she relaxes, love deepens. Smart men often fall into the trap of thinking that attraction is enough. That if the chemistry is strong, the rest will take care of itself. But chemistry is like caffeine. It gives you a rush, not endurance. Emotional connection, on the other hand, is what gives a relationship its rhythm, its calm, its longevity. You can impress her with your charm, your wit, your intellect, but none of those things will matter if she doesn't feel emotionally secure with you. She might admire you, but admiration without emotional resonance fades. What keeps a woman connected to a man isn't how much he excites her, but how deeply he sees her. When she feels seen, not just for her beauty, but for her mind, her fears, her dreams, that's when connection takes root. It's in those subtle moments, those small exchanges of empathy and understanding, where love begins to feel real. You don't need to constantly entertain her. You just need to be emotionally present. This isn't about being overly emotional or losing your composure. It's about emotional awareness, the ability to sense her energy, to listen between the words, to respond with authenticity instead of defense. It's about knowing that your presence alone can be powerful when it's steady and genuine. The men who understand this don't chase validation. They create emotional environments where both people feel valued. That's the difference between a fleeting attraction and a lasting bond. And biologically, the difference is profound. Attraction lights up the reward centers of the brain. It's driven by dopamine, by excitement and novelty. But connection engages oxytocin, the bonding hormone. It's what makes two people feel like home to each other. When you prioritize emotional connection, you're not just building romance, you're building neurological trust. That's why relationships rooted in emotional safety tend to last longer. They feed the brain's need for stability as much as the heart's need for love. A woman doesn't stay because you made her heart race. She stays because you made her heart rest. She stays because you showed her that she can be fully herself around you, that her emotions aren't an inconvenience, her voice matters, and her trust is safe in your hands. When she senses that, her attraction doesn't fade. It evolves. It turns into devotion, respect, and emotional loyalty that outlasts physical chemistry. So if you want a relationship that endures, don't just chase the spark, nurture the flame. Attraction starts the story, but connection is what writes the ending.